Hey everybody, Max Boltman here alongside Mark Lazarus and Jesse Granger for another episode of the Athletic Hockey Show, a live episode of the Athletic Hockey Show on July 1, the start of NHL free agency. And Jesse, it hasn't been the most exciting day, hasn't had all the fireworks we maybe were hoping for with some trades, but we knew it was a light free agent class. And as we sit here at about 4 o'clock, the biggest deal so far done today is the Toronto Maple Leafs signing Sergei Bobrovsky, the number one free agent on Chris Johnson's trade board. It's an interesting one, right? Bobrovsky obviously has the 2 Stanley Cups. He's about as decorated a goaltender as you're going to find in the NHL. And so the Leafs adding him on a 3-year deal, you can see the motivation for that, right? At the same time, it's a 38-year-old goalie. It's a multi-year deal, and it's a $7 million AAV. It's not necessarily a cheap deal either. What do you make of this one for Bobrovsky and the Leafs?
Yeah, it's funny because like the overall feeling by people is that this hasn't been exciting, but like as the goalie guy, today has been awesome. I mean, we like last year, all the goalies re-signed with their teams before reaching free agency. There was basically nothing left. Jake Allen was the highlight of the goalie class last year. This year, we've got Bobrovsky signing. We've got Stuart Skinner signing, which also has ramifications for Connor Hellebuyck we'll get into. But there's been a ton of exciting things in the crease today, and obviously Bobrovsky highlights that. It's a really fun deal for me. I mean, I'm always just looking for storylines and drama, and Sergei Bobrovsky, the surefire first ballot Hall of Famer whenever he decides to retire. He's got 2 Vezina trophies, 2 Stanley Cups. Every player that's ever done that in the history of the sport is in the Hall of Fame, and he will join them. This guy, yes, he's coming off a bad season. Yes, he's going to be 38, but he's going to Toronto. And look, it could go poorly. It's so easy to see how it goes poorly. Goalies specifically changing teams this late in their career, It doesn't typically work out. It's very easy to see how it goes poorly. But if it goes right, like I see some of these other moves where it's like, if it goes right, the ceiling still isn't that high. But if Sergei Bobrovsky finds his mojo back and they can keep him fresh, they've got a good backup goalie in Anthony Stolarz. These two, the last time they were a tandem in Florida, they each had the best season of their entire career. Stolarz was phenomenal for Florida. It's why he got the deal in Toronto. And he kept Bobrovsky fresh so that when he was in the playoffs, that was their first Stanley Cup win, 2023-24. And if they can do that again, and look, the Maple Leafs, when they get into the playoffs, there's so much, I feel like it's almost more of a mental hurdle than it is a physical hurdle. This team doesn't look the same as it did 2 years ago, but I think they're still good enough to get to the playoffs and compete. And if you get to the playoffs, I can't think of anything in the world that could possibly allow them to get over that mental hurdle more than having Sergei Bobrovsky in the net. It gives that franchise a reason to believe something is different. This time it's different. We can do it this time, so that when something goes wrong in the playoffs, you don't immediately say, oh, here we go again, where the Toronto Maple Leafs were good. Because I feel like that's a real thing that this team feels when they're in the playoffs. And if you've got Bobrovsky back there, it at least gives everyone on the ice a reason to believe, like, he is the dude. We've got the dude back there in the net, and he's going to be the reason it's going to be different this time.
It's a strange thing because this is a win now signing. This is a 38-year-old goaltender who, we don't know how, like everyone always says he's one of the hardest working guys around. He keeps his body in incredible shape. If anyone can play into his 40s, it's him. But like you said, he's coming off a really, really bad year. He was atrocious this year for the Florida Panthers. And we don't know what he's got left in the tank. So to sign him, it feels like the Patrick Marleau signing, doesn't it? Where it's like 3 years? At that age, are you sure? And that went south pretty quickly, and it feels like this can too. I just don't know what the Leafs are trying to accomplish here. Do they really think, like you kind of just alluded to it, that, hey, maybe they sneak into the playoffs? And then
he said when. He said when they're in the playoffs. I don't know if you meant the playoffs.
Which is kind of an insane thing to say, Jesse. No offense. This team feels like the 11th or 12th best team in the East at best. So what does signing a 38-year-old win-now goaltender do for you, other than maybe, hey, is this just like hey, Austin, we're still trying here. Don't leave us. Is that all this is?
I think they're better than they were last year. I think you look at the underlying metrics. I think that was they got really bad goaltending last year. Like Joseph Woll was hurt the whole year. Stolarz was hurt. Hildeby had to play a bunch more than they expected. He did admirably for a goalie of his caliber, but obviously it wasn't great. I thought they got some of the worst goaltending in the league last year. So I think that a tandem as strong as Bobrovsky and Stolarz can make a big difference with a team that I think has plenty of talent. And yes, I know losing Marner is huge. They are not the same team that they were 2 years ago, but I think they're much better than they were last year. I don't think last year was a good representation of how good this team is.
There's also been some makeover, right? I mean, they bring in Darren Radish prior to the start of free agency, and now on free agency day, they bring in Jack Roslovic, Teddy Bluger, Colton Sissons. A lot of, Roslovic probably play high in the lineup for a decent chunk of the year. The other guys are really more to round out your bottom six. We also, I believe I'm seeing a trade. Chris Johnston retweeted, yeah, the Leafs are acquiring Nick Paul from the Lightning as we're speaking right now. So that's another kind of like depth and another, to Jesse's point, like playoff style player, right? Like if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs and you're trying to overcome the mental hurdle as well as the on ice style hurdle, Nick Paul's a guy who's been there, done that, and kind of has those elements. Is he still in the form that he was in when he was that guy for the Tampa Bay Lightning? We'll see. There was a time this morning where a lot of people seemed pretty fired up about the idea of the Toronto Maple Leafs making a push for Zach Werenski. And that's an interesting one here that is, it sounds like, Darren Drager had a report earlier this afternoon that was like, okay, they've kind of cooled it down. Maybe they're going to try and have cooler heads prevail, have Werenski play. That's an interesting one to me, Laz. Like, can you walk this back after the volume, the temperature being what it's been the last few days?
Yeah, I don't know how you put the toothpaste back in the tube on that one, right? I mean, pick your cliche. The cows are out of the barn, the genie's out of the bottle. Like, it got real ugly real fast and devolved into something where it seemed like an untenable situation. And now, according to Drager's report, and there's no reason to doubt it, they're trying to like, oh, maybe we went too far. Maybe this isn't what we need to be doing. And, the Dallas trade fell through, and we talk about Toronto and Tampa were on his list, and neither of those teams really has the assets to make the kind of trade that Dallas could have made with Thomas Harley. So maybe, it is one of those situations where even Werenski says, all right, I understand. I can't completely screw you guys over. Let's see if we can make this work until a better situation presents itself. But there's got to be bad blood there right now. How are the fans? If Zach Werenski is in that opening day lineup, coming off the season of his life, a Norris Trophy season, a lifetime Blue Jacket, how is he going to be greeted knowing he is desperate to get out of there? Well, I don't know how that's going to play.
I have yet to see a report that he's requested a trade, though, right? I mean, hasn't the reporting been that he just hasn't committed to an extension?
If he wanted to stay, he's staying. He's trying to orchestrate a trade, and he's turning down trades to some places. Like, he's clearly not stoked about being a career Blue Jacket.
I just think there's a distinction there between that and like the Dylan Larkin situation in Detroit, where like fans know Larkin requested a trade. I think it's a slightly different dynamic there. But I do share your skepticism of like, are Blue Jackets fans going to be able to, memory hole that and just
especially that fan base, which has been down this road
deserted
many times before. Like, they're already 10 times bitten, 11 times shy. I understand if you're a Blue Jackets fan saying, the hell with this, why doesn't anybody want to play here? It's ridiculous. So, I mean, I don't see how there's not going to be bad blood there.
I had hopes that there would be at least some splashy trade today involving one of the big names that we've heard floated out there, Werenski, Larkin, Jason Robertson. The one that may, Jesse, kind of be the most likely at this point could be Winnipeg and Connor Hellebuyck, and that's because the Jets got Stuart Skinner today. Is there any way to read this other than the Jets preparing for a post-Hellebuyck future?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels that way just because. So start by saying I think that the Skinner deal is incredible value for the Jets. I mean, they signed him 2 years, $3.75 million. You look at the other goalies in the league that are making that much, it's like backups basically. It's Kevin Lankinen, Charlie Lindgren, guys that have not played nearly as much as Stuart Skinner, let alone the playoff experience he's got. I know he gets a bad rap because he was the goalie for the McDavid teams that failed, but he is a good goalie. He is not an elite goalie, but he's a good goalie. I think it's a phenomenal value. Now, as good as that value is, you don't want to be paying Connor Hellebuyck's backup nearly $4 million because if Connor Hellebuyck's the starter, he's playing 60-something games. That means you're getting 20-something games. That's the kind of position you want to pay league minimum. They were paying Eric Comrie very little and got away with it. Laurent Brossoit before him. When you have one of the few workhorses in the league, there aren't very many left these days that play 60-plus games, and Hellebuyck's probably the strongest workhorse in the league. That's a position you save money at. So to me, it doesn't make any sense. As good as the value is, it doesn't make any sense to spend that much money and invest that type of capital into a position that's basically only going to play against the easiest teams. Like, you're going to play the most sheltered schedule possible. You can get away with a much worse goalie than Stuart Skinner playing that role. So to me, it tells me they're trading Hellebuyck, or at least that's the intention. And I think that it helps them because a lot of the talk about, like, okay, who's going to trade for Hellebuyck was, well, they've got to get a legit NHL goalie back in the trade. Whether it's, I don't know, if you're going to trade him to Vegas, you want Aiden Hill back. If you're going to trade him to Buffalo, you want Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. they still might want that, but having Stuart Skinner there, this guy has been a starter in the NHL. He's played 50 games. It's no problem. He can absolutely handle it. I think if you're Winnipeg, you now have more leverage, more options. You're not limited to a team that's willing to send you a real goalie back. You can just get whatever the maximum value is for Connor Hellebuyck, and who cares what we get back as in net.
Yeah, and Skinner's a workhorse too. Like he's one of the handful of goalies who can play 55 games in a year because he's done it, and he's done it in the playoffs too. Even when he's had to switch out with Pickard and all that, he is a nice plan B. He is not Connor Hellebuyck, but he's a playoff tested goalie who has been to the Stanley Cup final twice. Stu Skinner has a really bad reputation that is not warranted. He's never been an elite goalie, but he is not some like bottom of the barrel dregs goalie. He's a guy who has won in this league and has come really close to winning it all. So I do think like the value is there. The reputation is unwarranted, but he's not Connor Hellebuyck, obviously.
All right, I want each of your top 3 landing spots for Connor Hellebuyck right now. Like if you could, match up team fit. Obviously, I'm not just saying like, yeah, obviously the Florida Panthers would be great for Connor Hellebuyck, but just given the totality of the situation, team side, given the situation, Hellebuyck side, like what are the 3 top destinations? Jesse, you go first.
So for me, Buffalo's number 1. I absolutely love the match. I think they can score with anyone. They've got talented blue line. They got away with goalies that were overperforming last year. Like they got good goaltending last year. This wasn't a team that got bad goaltending, but you look at the goalies and it's like, okay, that might have been a product of the system. They were playing on a heater. Like there's probably going to be some regression there. And then there's just the narrative. Like I was saying earlier, I love storylines. I love narratives. Connor Hellebuyck is the only goalie not named Dominik Hasek to win a Hart Trophy and 3 Vezinas. If he could do what even Dominik Hasek couldn't do and bring a Stanley Cup to Buffalo, that just cements him on the Mount Rushmore of goalies. I would love to see just him trying to do that, and I think that they absolutely could win with Connor Hellebuyck. That team suddenly becomes an absolute wagon in the East. Like nobody wants a piece of Buffalo if you take this high-scoring team with talented defenders and give them the best goalie in the world. Like that, to me, that is picture perfect in terms of the match.
And they have the young assets too. I mean, they have centers, they have prospects, they can deal from picks, whatever you want. Murdy Murka, they can accommodate it. All right, Laz.
I mean, it is Buffalo. Like, there's no way around it. Like, we all want, like, if there's one missing piece, it's an elite goaltender in Buffalo that would put him over the top. Storyline-wise, it'd be amazing if he went to Edmonton. I know they just signed Devon Levi.
I agree.
But if he goes to Edmonton, there's no excuses there. Like, we could joke about some of the contracts that Stan Bowman's handed out and Trent Frederick and the length and the no movement clauses with Connor Murphy and Jason Dickinson. But if you put Connor Hellebuyck behind that team, all of a sudden, that's maybe the best team in the West. Like, he can have that kind of an impact there. And then, here's Connor McDavid's last hurrah, potentially. They went and got the guy. Now do it. Let's see what you can do. Like, I think storyline-wise, Edmonton would just be absolutely fascinating.
What would be your offer as the Edmonton Oilers to try? Because I was thinking about the same thing. Edmonton, I think, would be the most interesting one to me as well. But who can they realistically... I mean, Matthew Savoy feels like he would have to be in it. I don't know that you want to do Vasily Podkolzin. I don't really know that that's the most essential thing for the Jets to get either. And
I don't know what Winnipeg wants because I don't know what Winnipeg is. Like, is Winnipeg looking for futures or is Winnipeg looking to get back? They're a year removed from the President's Trophy and they also just missed the playoffs by a lot. So I don't know what Winnipeg thinks it is exactly and what they would be even looking for in a Hellebuyck trade.
I'll throw another team in there that is... They have more to offer than Edmonton does, and it would just basically, like, I could just see every Eastern Conference fan's like face melt when I say this, but the Carolina Hurricanes could use it. They have a open spot at goalie. They're not paying Brandon Bussey hardly anything. This team just won the Stanley Cup. They only lost 3 or 4 games the entire playoffs with a million-year-old Freddie Anderson and Brandon Bussey in net. They only give up 8 shots a game. Put Connor Hellebuyck back there facing 8 shots a game. They may never lose. That would be, and they have tons of draft picks. They're not like the other contenders that have just completely emptied their cupboard of draft picks. Like Carolina's got a ton of picks. They don't have a ton they don't have a ton invested in goal. That's just game over for the rest of the league. But I think Connor Hellebuyck, if he were making a list of teams he wants to go to, Carolina's right there.
I think Buffalo, for the sake of the league, is kind of the best outcome here because it's the most interesting, right? If he goes to Carolina, like you're like, all right, it's the defending Cup champs, and it's really the arms race in the East is a great storyline, right? Florida loaded up, that would be Carolina loading up. We'll see what Tampa does later today, but a lot of people connecting them to John Carlson. That would be kind of Tampa loading up. Montreal's not going anywhere, and at some point, I would have to think they're going to end up with a second line center here. Adding Hellebuyck and Buffalo into that mix, I think, would be awesome, and add one more team to kind of the arms race.
It would also be really funny if you went to Vegas just because of the league-wide meltdown that would happen.
That would be a meltdown. Yes.
I would be happy with that. You're telling me I get to talk to Connor Hellebuyck every day? Sign me up.
You know he has studied goaltending more than any human in the history of the world.
Yeah, I do know that. And like to that kind of reminded me, like the Skinner in Winnipeg thing. So I think it's a perfect match for him. So Skinner and Hellebuyck have the same agent. They work with the same coaches in the offseason. And for years, I have heard nothing but amazing things about like just the way Winnipeg views its goalies, like the patience they have. Like I think Stuart Skinner, we were talking earlier, he has a bad rap and he's been jerked around. He's been pulled out of playoff series when he probably didn't I think for him, the person, you hear nothing but good things about Stuart Skinner, the person. I think for him to go into a calm environment, like that is the perfect place. If he's going to turn into like the best version of Stuart Skinner, I think Winnipeg is the spot for him.
All right. Elliot Friedman is reporting Vincent Trocheck is going to Utah. So that is obviously going to be one of the most interesting stories that we talk about today. Let's wait until we know a little bit more about the return to really dive into that one, but just put a pin in that.
What would that, just off the top of my head, what would that mean for Minnesota and Dylan Larkin? Like how all in would they have to be on Dylan Larkin?
They don't have, what do they have?
They have nothing to offer. I know.
Larkin? No, I know.
They need it. They need it and they want it more than anything.
And there goes their backup plan. And by the way, Utah, like for Detroit fans should be mourning this because Utah was the ideal partner for the Red Wings in a Dylan Larkin trade. And now they go get Vincent Trocheck. You have to think that takes them out of the market. I'm fascinated what the New York Rangers are going to get back here because Utah's system is awesome. Like they have great young players to deal from. And if the Rangers just got one of those guys, that's a big deal for the New York Rangers. We'll see what that comes out back to being. Maybe it's more built around picks. Maybe it's, players. We'll see. Put a pin in that. The other newsy signings of the day, Boone Jenner, 4-year deal to Washington. Washington has been extremely active this week. Where do they slot now? I mean, is this the second best team in the Metro, Laz?
I don't know. Like the East is so jumbled right now, and you have all these teams kind of like you called it an arms race, where a lot of teams are adding a lot of pretty good players from a conference that was already jam packed in the pretty good range with teams that were in that like 90 to 100 point range. I like a lot of what Washington's done. I don't know where this slots them in the Metro. Yeah, it probably puts them as the second best team given the way the rest of that. But in the Eastern Conference, still not in the top half, I wouldn't say, because the Atlantic is so loaded. But we're seeing so much movement in the East and these little kind of like, secondary pieces that are getting moved around. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out because there wasn't really a clear-cut number one to begin with. There wasn't a Colorado or a Vegas out west. I mean, Carolina, they won the Stanley Cup, but I don't think anybody really had them as head and shoulders above your Tampas, your Buffaloes, your Montreals now. It's going to be really fun to watch the East play out. The West the balance of power has been in the West for so long. It feels like we're finally shifting it back to the East, where the East is going to.
I think the Atlantic's been pretty good for quite a while. I think they've got
pretty
four
good.
of the
It's
last
been pretty good. Yes,
4 of the last 6 Stanley Cup champions, something like that. Not dynasties, but pretty good teams in the Atlantic.
You're damn right, they're not dynasties. That's the legal definition here.
Well, hey, how about one of the teams that has the best chance to build a dynasty, the San Jose Sharks? They've been doing some interesting stuff on their blue line today, and you could take that in either direction. Interesting, right? I mean, they've got some big names back there and some big contracts. So they signed Jacob Trouba, 4-year deal. I think it's 8.5 or 8.25?
8.25.
8.25. And then they trade for Darnell Nurse at full freight, Jesse. 4 times 9.25. These are name players. This is a young San Jose team. This is in some ways, a small young San Jose team. Will Smith, they're going to bring in Ivar Stenberg, Macklin Celebrini up front. So you bring in 2 physical, good, big body, veteran defensemen. You're also bringing in 2 really, really big contracts.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they paid to get Darnell Nurse blew my mind. I expected Edmonton to be paying whoever took that contract on. The fact that they got a prospect back and didn't retain anything is wild. I agree with you that like stylistically Trouba, I liked what Trouba did for Anaheim last year, and Anaheim's kind of in a similar spot to San Jose. Like young, fast team that is trying to learn how to win. I think Trouba, from a stylistic fit, is perfect for them. The contract is wild. Now, maybe this is a case of Greer saying, well, we've got whatever, $40-50 million in cap space. We're not really concerned if these are good values or not. Like the Sharks aren't in the same spot that the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights are, where every $500,000 is precious and you can't have any overpay. Maybe they're just saying, we've got the money to overpay, the space to overpay. Let's just do it. Like, and then in 4 years, when all these young players need to be paid, these contracts will fall off and it won't be that big of a deal. Maybe that is the case, but if suddenly next season they're contending and they want to spend money and they're tied up with two of the worst contracts in the league, I think he hasn't played a game on it. It doesn't look great. The money is not great. And Darnell Nurse has been one of the worst contracts in the league. This could be a problem down the road if they get good faster than they thought and they have to give these extensions out faster than they thought.
Maybe this ends some of the glazing that the hockey world has been doing with the Sharks and Mike Greer, because it's been a little over the top, considering, they just fell backwards into lottery luck and it changed their franchise. Made some nice moves, don't get me wrong, but also a lot of this is just circumstance. The Trouba ones, it's kind of mind blowing to me, because look, they need what Trouba has to offer? Do they need to get nastier? They need to be harder to play against? Yes. Did Trouba come off a pretty good year with Anaheim? Yeah, but he was playing with Jackson Lacombe. He's not going to be playing with Jackson Lacombe in San Jose. He's slow. He gets out of position because he chases the big hits, because that's what he wants to do. And he's a defensive liability on a team that already didn't really have much of a team defense to speak of. I don't see how this signing, the Trouba one, makes the Sharks better. Darnell Nurse, yeah, the number is scary. The term is a little scary. He can still play a little bit at least. Trouba is not a top pairing guy. If Trouba's on your third pairing at $4 million, great. Yeah, let's go. But as a top pairing guy, which he needs to be at $8.25 million, playing with Darnell Nurse, that's a top pairing that scares me a little bit. If the Sharks are supposed to take a leap this year into playoff contention, that's not the way to do it.
I think it's a little harsh. Like, I think they're probably both best cast as like number 4 defenseman, as kind of the physical guy next to a puck mover on a second pair. But to your point, Laz, like I'm talking about them both being best cast as a number 4 defenseman. They're both being paid like top pair guys. That might be your top pair in San Jose, and that could lead to some frustration, right? You're going to bring along Sam Dickinson. You're obviously going to hope that he's going to progress into a future, certainly top 4, and ideally top pair guy, but he's not going to be that right away. And so you're going to spend a lot of the next 2 or 3 years with these two guys, at least one of these two guys, and quite possibly both of these two guys as your top pair for San Jose. And that's going to cause some frustration. These are two players that I like both of them, and I think either one of them would have been a nice add. Having both and having to rely on both possibly together, I think if you talk to the fan bases of the teams they were both on, you get a sense that there's probably some frustration in store for the Sharks. But it's interesting. I mean, the Sharks are clearly trying to gear up here. Like, Macklin Celebrini almost willed them into the playoffs last year. They're clearly trying to prepare for the possibility that he gets them into the playoffs next year. And these are two guys that I think their teams have probably, Nurse, to your point, Jesse, I'm sure in the Stanley Cup runs, yes, there have been moments that it hasn't looked very good. I think there have also been a lot of nights that the Edmonton Oilers were grateful to have Darnell Nurse in some of those hard environments, playoff environments.
Yeah, I mean, if he made $6 million a year, it would be fine. But he's like the top 5 highest paid defenseman in the league.
I think if he's your number 4, you're pretty happy, because it's specific elements, and it's like, yeah, this guy goes with our shifty power play guy on the second pair. But when this is your top pair, it's a slotting problem.
Right.
Yeah, I don't mind the Darnell Nurse edition. I mind the Darnell Nurse edition alongside the Jacob Trouba edition. When you put them together, it doesn't make sense.
I think best case scenario for San Jose is, like you said, Dickinson plays with one of those two on the top pair and he takes a big leap. And then Kesselring maybe on the second pair with the other of Trouba. And like, this is best case scenario. And
that's another guy. Like, Buffalo
doesn't
was
sound
pretty
that
frustrated
great. I mean,
with Kesselring, right? Like, that's another guy who you're kind of saying, like, this is a team that,
there are some big shots on that back end now, though. You got some booming slap shots, no matter who you got back there now with Kesselring and Trouba and Nurse. So at the very least, they'll be interesting on the power play.
All right, so here's what Molly Walker is reporting the return for Trocheck is, and we had just talked about earlier going to Utah. It's a little underwhelming here for the New York Rangers. It's Sean Durzi, Cole Baudouin, former first-round pick center, kind of projects as like a third-line center type, and a 2027 third. So the Rangers do not get their first-round pick. They basically substitute in Baudouin as the first-round pick, and then it's Durzi, an NHL player, and a good NHL player. I like Sean Durzi. In fact, he's the exact kind of guy that I think if your second pair was Darnell Nurse and Sean Durzi, that's kind of the fit you're looking for there. He's kind of that, second pair puck-moving type. But for the New York Rangers here to not get the true premium asset, like even Baudouin, it's a nice player. It's not really a premium asset here.
Yeah, you wonder if they could have done better at the trade deadline. They waited because they didn't feel the urgency, and the market was softer than I think people thought, considering we thought that there were only two centers available, and one of them was Vincent Trocheck, and the other one was going to cost a fortune in Dylan Larkin. So I'm a little surprised.
This is the budget win for sure. And by the way, if the Wild don't get Dylan Larkin now, the Wild are going to look at this return and go, "Oh crap, we could have beaten that.
We could have done that." Yeah.
Yep. And for Utah, it's great. I mean, this is a team that is on the rise. We were just talking about San Jose. Utah's in a similar position. They're kind of 1 year ahead in that, and they've got great wingers. I mean, Keller and Krause were great last year. Gunther and Yamamoto on that second line. They did need a little bit. Like, obviously Logan Cooley is the future, but they needed another good center, and a center who can like thrive in tight checking playoff games. Like, that's Vincent Trocheck. So for Utah,
Schmaltz, Trocheck,
I like the fit
Cooley.
a lot.
You gotta like that as your three centers down the middle. And then you got Barrett Hayton
for
there
sure
too. But Schmaltz, Cooley, Trocheck, that's almost Colorado level. Step down with McKinnon, but that's pretty impressive.
It's interesting. It's interesting to get this done without parting with one of their top assets. It makes me wonder what else could Utah do? Could Utah get in on the bidding for Connor Hellebuyck, right? Is it a fait accompli that they're out on Larkin kind of thing? And there's trade lists involved obviously here, but Hellebuyck to Utah, speaking of desirable destinations, that could suddenly be an awesome spot for Hellebuyck to land. Yeah,
it could. And Vejmelka is, like, we were talking, like, Winnipeg doesn't have to have the goalie coming back, but Vejmelka would be an excellent, like, Vejmelka Skinner, that's a excellent tandem, and they'd probably make combined about what Hellebuyck made. So if you're Winnipeg, like, obviously you're going to get worse trading the best goalie in the world, but that's not a bad way to come out of it.
Yeah. All right, we talked about some of the money that's been flying around here, and it's not just in the true free agent market, Laz. Like, we're even seeing it show up on extensions. Like, what was your reaction when you saw the number for Bowen Byram's? He had all the leverage, right? I mean, with everything that the Blackhawks gave up to get him, what are they going to tell him? You can ask for the moon. They basically have to say yes. But what was your reaction when you saw the final number for Bowen Byram, which was 6 years, $12.5 million a year?
Did he have all the leverage? I mean, he clearly wanted to come to Chicago. And if Kyle Davidson had said, you're getting 10.5 or 11, would he have said no? Would he have played hardball? I don't know. It's a very high number. Look, it's Kyle Davidson firmly believes that Bo Byram is a true number one defenseman who just hasn't been given the opportunity yet. He's 25. He fits the timeline. He's going to make magic with Connor Bedard in the power play. He's going to see a huge uptick in points next year as the number one power play guy and playing with Bedard as the fourth winger on that line. He's going to put up some points. And if Kyle Davidson's right, then 2 or 3 years from now, this is going to be a steal, right? Because the price only goes up. I equate it to this. When the Blackhawks signed Brian Campbell in 2008, that was the signing that kind of signaled, like, hey, we're serious now. We got Kane and Taves and Keith, and now we're going to try to supercharge this. He got $7-point-something million. The cap back then was $53 million. It was like 12.5% of the cap. This $12.5 million, when it kicks in next fall, is going to be 11% of the cap. We have to kind of recalibrate our minds to the numbers we're going to see, because Cale Makar is going to get $19-20 million. So is Quinn Hughes. The numbers are going to go through the roof here. But still, I don't think you had to give him $12.5 million. He didn't have any leverage. You got him. He wants to be here. I don't think he's going to say no to $11 million. It just seems like they were negotiating against themselves a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mark that, like, if he becomes what they hope, then this deal is fine because like you said, the growing cap. But he hasn't shown it. Like, it is a big if. This is a guy who, and it's not like he hasn't, like, maybe you can say he hasn't had the opportunity, but, like, Buffalo wanted him to be that guy. Like, it's not like he has been stuck behind like impossible defensemen that he couldn't come up.
Makar
like,
and Dahlin for the power play side, at least, right?
Okay, maybe on the power play, but like at 5-on-5, he hasn't been like you need more than just the power play points. Like Makar and Dahlin are dominant 5-on-5 players that just take games over, and Byram hasn't looked anything remotely close to that so far. Maybe he will. Maybe sometimes guys get on the power play, they get the puck touches, and all of a sudden the 5-on-5 looks different. Like that, there is a route to get there, but we have yet to see it. And $12 million is a lot for maybe if he turns into this.
My guy Scott Powers put it best the day after the trade went down, that because you did, like Max said, you had to sign him right away to kind of like back up like backing up your bet and craps, right? You made the bet, now you got to back it up. There's no test drive here. He's getting number one money without ever having been a number one. This is a pure bet. This is Kyle Davidson saying, God damn it, this guy's going to be a number one. I believe it. I'm putting all the money behind it. And I think that's just where they're at right now. Is like it's a gamble. It's a high risk, high reward gamble. And the one thing you can look at is the money probably doesn't matter that much. This is not going to be an albatross contract. The way things, like Connor Bedard's going to get his 14 or 15 million, but nobody else is really like lining up in the next 6 years to get that big payday. Artem Levshinov and Anton Frondel, their next contracts are probably going to be more like bridge deals the way things are headed. So it's probably not a huge deal. It's just a lot of money. It's sticker shock. I think we're going to have to get over that, though, a little bit.
I agree with you. And you see it around the contracts around the league, a lot of numbers, and you're like, ooh, but within a year or two, it's quite possible that's just going to be the norm. I mean, even Bowen Byram at 12.5, like if Quinn Hughes is making $16-17 million, you know, if he's in line with Kirill Kaprizov a year from now, it suddenly slots that Bowen Byram contract and looking like, okay, yeah, like that guy's worth probably $4.5-5 million less than Quinn Hughes. But right now it's not the case. And I wonder, like, how good does he have to be in Chicago to be worth the trade plus the contract? Like, it sets a really high bar for him to clear.
It does. And he talked about that today. He was in town looking for, he just got married like 2 days ago, and he was in town with his new wife, and they're looking for a place to live now. So he stopped by to talk to the reporters. And he said, he's like, I understand the pressure I'm under now and the expectations on me, and I look forward to that. And it's the right attitude to have. He believes he's this guy. He believed that he was this guy. I remember during his draft year, it was the Hawks to Kirby Doc that year at number 3, and most Hawks fans wanted them to take Bo Byram. So it's kind of fascinating to see that now that he's in the prime of his career, he's coming here and with those expectations. He knows it. Kyle Davidson knows it, and every single Blackhawks fan knows it. He's going to have to be. He's been a 42-point guy or something like that is the most he's ever been. He's got to get into the 60s or 70s here, and he's got to play defense. You know, he's got to be a two-way guy. He's got to be a true number one. He can't just be an offense-only guy.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. You can see the biases from the teams we cover. Like Mark covering a team that like is building through the draft, and he's like, okay, they don't have anyone to pay for the next 6 years. Like they're not going to have any big money. I cover the Golden Knights, and I'm like, I feel like you could add 3 $10 million players in the next couple months. Like just the way we view the roster building, right? The way we view the roster building is just because that's what we deal with on a daily basis.
I used to do that. When I covered the Hawks back in the day, every summer was like, oh, we're dumping Andrew Shaw, we're dumping Patrick Sharp, we're dumping Dave Bolland. I remember those days. It's a different mindset for sure.
One more goalie deal, Jesse, I wanted to get your thoughts on. We talked about Bobrovsky right off the top of the show. The reason that domino falls, the reason that Sergei Bobrovsky leaves the Florida Panthers, just as they're loading up everywhere else, is that they brought in his replacement in Jacob Markstrom in a trade from the Devils. How do you think Jacob Markstrom slots in for the Panthers?
Yeah, it's super interesting because he's in a similar situation to Bobrovsky. He's obviously a little younger, but he's an older goalie who's coming off a really bad year. Like it was a disastrous year for him in New Jersey, and it's been a couple years. Like he was amazing that last year in Calgary before going to the Devils, but it's been a while since we've seen Markstrom at a high level for like an extended period of time. He's shown us flashes. He was good in the Olympics, I thought. He was good in that one playoff series for the Devils against Carolina, even though they lost in the first round. I thought Markstrom was phenomenal, but we haven't seen him play well enough that like to live up to the Panthers have cup expectations. Like we haven't seen him play at that level in a very long time. He comes back to Florida 13 years after being there as a rookie. It's going to be interesting. I think I have some concerns just because he is an aging goalie who relies heavily on his athleticism. He is a big man who moves in a way that most guys that size don't move. And it worries me that if he does start to slow down a little bit, like his superpower is kind of making off schedule saves where he's just kind of flopping around and making big stops. Like you don't usually get that out of a goalie that size. And that's what has made him special for his entire career. And it just seems like that's the style of goalie who can fall off a cliff. And if that has happened, it's going to be bad for Florida. I mean, it's certainly a risk.
Max, I want to, you're hosting here, so I understand you're steering the conversation, but I do want to ask you about Dylan Larkin. Yeah. You're our Red Wings guy. I know that I've been that beat writer. I know you wanted the Band-Aid to get ripped off today, and now you're staring down a whole summer of chasing this down, which is the worst feeling you could have as a beat writer. But what do you expect to happen here? Is this relationship is not salvageable, right? We're not having a Werenski situation here, right? So if nobody has what Steve Yzerman wants, what's going to happen here?
I think it would have to I mean, I don't think it's that nobody has what Steve Yzerman wants. I think it's going to necessitate Dylan Larkin being willing to go to, the number of teams that it's going to entail to get a move done, right? And that's where the two things you're talking about kind of collide, right? Like on one hand, you could say, all right, well, if the list is that small, come to camp and play. And that's the tact I think the Red Wings would try to take. I do still view that as a negotiating tact, right? Like I don't think it's really good for anyone for that to be the situation, but it's the threat that they want to give basically to try to get Larkin to expand his list. And it's a battle of wills, right? And Steve Yzerman is a person that's pretty willful, right? So it's you can see how it can go that way. So I think it's going to drag at this point is how it seems. But up until the point where the Red Wings feel like they can make a suitable deal. And maybe it does get him to the preferred destination, but it requires some creativity. It requires a third team. It requires, whoever's Minnesota, Vegas, like making some puzzle pieces work to where there is a return that the Red Wings like. Maybe it requires Larkin just outright expanding the list and you get some destinations in there, right? Like, that's how I just think it's going to have to take more creativity and some give from probably both sides.
Could you see this going into training camp and like waiting and seeing if there's an injury in camp that opens up another suitor? I mean, could it drag on that long?
But I don't think it's about like an injury that needs to open up a suitor. I think it's about the list, right? Like if
desperation could be a factor too, an opportunity. I mean, you never know.
Yes, it can, right, for sure.
To continue that, I want to ask you, Max, like, so earlier Laz said, like, we don't know what Winnipeg is. Like, what do they even want back? I feel like Detroit's kind of in a similar situation where like they signed Tarasov, they brought Gibson in. Like this seems like a team that's trying to win now, and maybe the leash with Yzerman is getting a little short. Like, do you think they want futures? Do you think they want to make this a hockey trade?
I tried to ask Yzerman this over the weekend. I thought he didn't want to talk about anything relating to Larkin. He basically no comment to the questions until the end, and then he said, "I'll give you an update," and he just gave an update. And so that was my question for him, though, was like, what does everything that's happening this offseason mean for the direction of the Red Wings? And I think you're spot on, Jesse. Like the move today to sign Arvidsson and Tarasov, like I don't think these are like make or break kind of moves, but they're also not the moves you're like, okay, we're going to go back into a deep rebuild here. So I think that tells you they're not interested in the full, wholesale thing here. But there are so many dominoes here yet to come. We don't know what Patrick Kane is doing. He's still out there as a 4:42 p.m. That's a big one for the Red Wings. Maybe not fully related, but certainly like an interesting ripple there is one of his close friends, Alex DeBrincat, who was the Red Wings leading scorer last year. DeBrincat is from Detroit as well. And like, I don't think it's impossible that the Red Wings are able to kind of keep and extend Alex DeBrincat. He's a year out from free agency. That's another thing, last to your point about like what you're thinking as a beat writer on July 1. It's not just the guys there now, it's who's a year out that I need to be watching for, right? So there is a path for them to keep a lot of good players and try to remain competitive. But look at the Atlantic Division right now. Like, I don't see a path for the Red Wings to make the playoffs out of the Atlantic Division right now. Not with what Florida's doing, not with what Tampa is already done, kind of continuing to try to do. Toronto is loading up. I don't know that you could say the Red Wings are better than the Maple Leafs right now. The Bruins, they're kind of a weird team because every year I look at their roster on paper and I go, meh, and then they kind of make the wild card. I think the Red Wings, as we sit here today, are the 8th best team in the Atlantic Division. So if they're seriously prioritizing now players in a Larkin return, I think that might be a big mistake. I think you almost have to take, it doesn't have to be just truly draft picks. It can be like prospects. It can be 19, 20-year-old guys who are going to be in the NHL pretty soon here. I think you're kind of deluding yourself if you make this trade for guys who are 28 to 32, just based on where the team stands right now.
You mentioned Patrick Kane. Why I'm surprised there's not more talk about Anaheim. Joel Quenneville's there. It's where he had his best. He lived with Pat Verbeek when he was a youth player. Like, it feels like all the ties are there. It's a team that's on the rise and could be contending this in the next year or two. I wonder if Kane just decides to say screw it and leaves the original six for
I've wondered about Anaheim. I've wondered about Minnesota, right? And the Hughes factor there, right? Like, Quinn Hughes goes somewhere and people want to play with Quinn Hughes, right? Competitive team. They just let Matt Zuccarello go, which I thought was interesting. Like, Matt Zuccarello, I think, is pretty underrated player.
That was my favorite signing of the day. You got 1 year
$1 million plus bonuses. I know,
for a guy who was basically a point-a-game player last year. He's a power play wizard. Artemi Panarin he's going to be his new best friend because all he does is going to set him up for those beautiful one-timers. That was a great signing by the Kings.
Absolutely, and so when I saw that, I was like, maybe Patrick Kane fits there, and maybe he fits that hole in Minnesota. I've also thought about Toronto. Like, Laz, Patrick Kane loves a stage. He loves a market that loves hockey. He's played for 3 original 6 teams. Toronto could be a 4th. Be playing with Austin Matthews. Be with Gavin McKenna. Chance to mentor the future.
What did you see from Kane last year? What's he got left?
It's interesting because there was a time through the middle of the year, he was coming back from an injury, that it was a struggle for him. And I was like, okay, maybe it's starting to wear down. And then in March, when most of the Red Wings went off a cliff, he was one of their best players again. And I think he kind of found his rhythm. So there's still juice there. When you have the brain, and Patrick Kane sees the ice better than possibly still any hockey player in the game. I mean, it's him, it's Leon Draisaitl, like it's Mitch Marner, like it's a short list that he is still on of the best vision, the most creative players in the NHL. Yeah, the legs aren't there quite as much anymore. No, he's not going into any corners for you. He's not, a 200-foot player. He's obviously not killing any penalties.
Was he ever going in any corners?
Exactly, right. So he's not going to be a huge goal scorer, but he can still get you 20 goals. He can still get you 60 points. He can still be a huge difference maker for you on the power play. Like, this is still a top 6, I think, forward. Maybe it's third line on a cup contending team, but I think he can still play for a second line.
His game was never predicated on speed. It was never north-south. It's always been east-west. It's always been his vision. He never gets hit, and it's not because he's fast. It's because he has spidey sense where he senses the contact and he's able to get away from it. He always struck me as the kind of guy who could play into his 40s and still be effective. And I agree. I think there's still a bunch of 20-goal seasons left in that guy.
Yeah, he can be a top 6 guy, like just as like the 3rd best player on a top line. Like if you just want to move your best players more down the lineup to spread the wealth, like put a guy like Kane up on the top line, and you're not gonna he's gonna score a bunch of goals.
He needs to play with a shooter, someone who a smart shooter, right? Someone who can see that Kane is trying to open up time and space for him and get to open ice, and Kane will find him. And he needs to play with someone who's hard, fast, go to the net, retrieve some pucks, and make everything work. He had that in Detroit, like with DeBrincat, with Andrew Kopp or Marco Kasper. I think like that there's. And it wouldn't shock me if that's still where this ends. I wouldn't rule that out at all.
Oh, for sure.
I think he's just kind of surveying his options here, obviously on July 1 and seeing what's out there. It won't shock me if he ends up back in Detroit. But if it ends up somewhere else, like those are the kind of players that he needs to be playing with to maximize him and keep the impact, where it wants to be. Laz, I thought it was interesting. You said Zuccarello was your favorite signing of the day. I think I agree with you, but I'm curious, Jesse, do you have one that stands out as a favorite?
Sergei Bobrovsky.
Really?
No, seriously though, it's the Stuart Skinner signing. Like, I've been ranting and raving about it on Twitter, and everybody's been telling me how stupid I am because everybody hates Stuart Skinner. But I just think a goal like the number below $4 million is unbelievable. When you look at all these other deals that are getting handed out, how sparse it is, like how hard it is to find a starting goalie. Edmonton wishes it still had Stuart Skinner. Like, it's crazy to me that they were able to get him for that price. So yeah,
anytime a player chooses Winnipeg or Columbus, I am very happy for those fan bases. So good for Winnipeg. A guy who has done a lot in this league wanted to be there.
We gave the Sharks some crap for the defense move earlier. I think Mason Marchment up front is a nice signing there. The contract, the sticker shock factor, we talked about it all episode. It's real.
That's the going rate now, man.
I think $7 million for Mason Marchment, like a hard 20-goal player, rounds out a young top 6. He's going to protect those guys. I like that ad for them.
Perfect fit in terms of what they needed.
Yeah.
Yep.
A couple other extensions. I mean, Nico Hischier extends in the Devils. I don't think we're too surprised about that. The Demidov out of ELC, I think that looks like just we're going to be talking about that in the same way.
Montreal, holy! How you look at their cap sheet, and there are no palm trees in Montreal, and they pay very high taxes. Apparently, it is possible if you build a team that people want to be a part of, and you sign guys early to long-term deals. They have like 6 great players signed long-term, under $10 million each. They've done a fabulous job up there.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this Demidov one the same way that we talk about how good the Lane Hudson contract is, how good the Nick Suzuki, the Cole Caulfield contract is, right? I mean, Kent Hughes has this down. He knows what he has. He's going to have to get a second line center, I think, especially with the way the East is loaded up. But this is another one that we're just going to be raving about for years to come.
People want to be Montreal Canadiens. It's fun up there, man.
I think more than that, though, it's just the signing them early off the ELC. Like, it's just... Now it takes some conviction, right? Like there's a risk there, and you have to put yourself out on the line a little bit, but you can lock these players up early for, like, I'm trying to think of like Nathan McKinnon's deal a long time back. Like his deal was unbelievable for a while, and it's the same thing. Like that's
because he wasn't very good yet, though. He didn't get good until his fourth year, really.
Yeah.
Like these guys are already pretty good, and they could have gotten a lot more money than this.
I try to think about, like, when does this go wrong? Like there are some examples. Like Kakaniemi was, maybe not an ideal contract. Josh Norris, you probably paid too early for Ottawa, although they were still able to turn him into Dylan Cousins. It just seems to be the dominant strategy. I mean, Chicago did it last year with Frank Nazar. He had not shown very much. They signed him to a number. The number at first, you're like, wow, that's kind of a lot for a guy who hasn't really done a lot yet. And here we are a year later with the cap gross, and you're going like, oh, Frank Nazar's under market for what he does.
Number 2 center for $6.5 million. That's good business.
That is good business. So I know it, in theory, it can go wrong. And I could think of maybe a couple examples off the top of my head about contracts that maybe seem like they went long a little early, but they're the minority. It does
Especially
seem like this is the way.
We have to get our brains out of the flat cap era. We're still stuck. So many of us, and myself very much included, you see the number, you're like, oh my God, for that. The cap is going to be like $140 million in a few years. Like, these are not big numbers relative. We got to start thinking more about percentage of the cap and less about the numbers themselves.
And by the way, it's a better order of things too, right? I much prefer this, where you're paying a player and you're projecting a little bit for what they're going to be because they're 22 or they're 23 years old. But that contract is going to expire when they're 30 or 31. And then you're going to do a new deal based on projecting what that's going to be. I far prefer that to the old way, which was you squeeze a guy until he's 28 and then you have to pay him so much money for what he's already done and what he's not going to repeat into his 30s.
For his non-prime years, exactly.
This is so much better of a way to do business for the NHL. I think it's better for the players. You get the money earlier, and you can see the cap's going to go up, right? So, yeah, sign long-term, and you'll get your money now.
The players should be signing 3 or 4 year deals, not 7 or 8 year deals, but the principle is there, yes.
Well, the team's not going to sign a 4-year deal out of ELC.
That's the thing.
That'd be crazy. Walk them.
It's also better for the players because it doesn't like tarnish your reputation because you're not getting paid insane amounts of money as an old man. Like this way, as the player, you're getting all your money. And the fans are pumped about you. Like the fans all love the money you're making because you're awesome still, rather than paying them on the back end. And now you get all the money you deserved, but the return is every fan that has loved you your whole career now hates you because and wants you traded because your contract's a disaster.
And then you can go cup chasing more easily at the end of your career because you've already made so much money. You can pick your spots and not be worried about I got to get that one more big deal. I got to get that one big deal.
You can do it either way. You can spend your last year's ring chasing on like 1 or 2 year deals, or you can sign sweetheart hometown deals and everyone's like, oh, this guy loves us, let's build him a statue. Exactly. So I just think it's a much better order of things in the NHL right now. Is there anything I haven't hit on that you guys want to talk about? I mean, Corey Perry back to the Kings do anything for you?
The Kings are getting very old and slow. I have a little bit of a concern about how old and slow the Kings are getting with Zuccarello and Perry and some of these guys, but
it's they're also interesting
on the 6-year deal, by the way, $1.5 million.
6 year, 1.5 is ridiculous. The Kings are interesting to me because I feel like similar to what we talk about with Minnesota, like they're loaded on the wing and they sign Perry and Zuccarello, but that's 2 more wingers and you add them to like Panarin, Fiala, Kempe, Laferriere. Right now, their second line center is Eric Haula, who they also added today, but that is not who you want to be your second line center. Like it's Byfield and that's it. I don't know how that team is going to look.
Why didn't they beat the offer for Trocheck? I feel like they could have beaten the Trocheck offer there.
Maybe. Wouldn't have been very difficult. It wasn't much of an offer.
Interesting. All right. Well, maybe we wrap there. Oh, actually, you know what, Jesse? There is one more I want to get you on. We haven't talked. We talked about the Edmonton Oilers. We did not talk about their goalie situation here. There was some thoughts early in the offseason when the Sebastian Cossa smoke was billowing in Detroit and Grand Rapids that Edmonton would be a natural landing point for him. It obviously was not. He goes to Utah. They pivot to another young goalie who hasn't really been able to break through in the NHL in Devon Levi. Is Levi Jarry Like, do you like this signing? Is Levi or this move? Is Levi Jarry a viable tandem for the Oilers?
It's not a move with much like I'm not confident that it's going to work, but I do see a route. Like, I think it's a risky move. It's a lotto ticket. You're taking a goalie who has not shown that he can do it in the NHL, but I like it. I don't like it as much as I would have liked Kosa, because Kosa's got a better pedigree. We haven't seen him struggle for as long to break through as we have Levi. But I think that from a stylistic perspective, I really like the way Levi fits with that team. He is a smaller goalie, a little bit undersized, but not like he's not super tiny. But he's just a phenomenal skater. And like when I think of Edmonton Oilers and the way that they play a fast hockey game, like you need a good skater to keep up with that. And at times that was probably Stuart Skinner's biggest problem playing behind that team was he's more of a positional blocking goalie. And there were times when the game looked too fast for him. And I think that Levi, now, you got to like, what's the percentage chance that he hits and becomes what you're hoping? It's probably less than 50%. However, if he does hit, if that lottery ticket turns up, I think he's the perfect style goalie to play behind that team. A fast skating goalie who reads the play well. He's great on his edges. Like, he is the style of goalie the Oilers should be looking for. It's why I couldn't believe they traded for Jarry. Like, not only was he old and getting paid a bunch of money, but he also was not the style that they should have been going for. Like, I think that Levi, there are things to like about this. While I wouldn't put money on it working, I think there is a chance it works out, and it's a pretty low risk chance. Like, you're not paying him a bunch of money. They paid a 4th round pick to get him. It's not like they invested a ton into this.
I could hear the pain in Jesse's voice at the beginning of that, twisting himself in a knot, trying to think of something positive to say about the Edmonton Oilers goaltending situation. God bless you, Jesse.
Jesse's
like
hammered
Levi.
the Oilers goalies. He's hammered. The Oilers goalies.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah. Calvin Pickard again. I think Devon Levi is better than Calvin Pickard right now. So there's that. I think he's better than Tristan Jarry. I think, like, if you were to tell me who's going to be their number one goalie by the end of the season, I think it's more likely Devon Levi is the guy. Like, I want to see him get an opportunity. Buffalo didn't have much of a choice. He was going to be waiver exempt. He wasn't going to clear waivers. There's no chance that a goalie in a league like this where people are just looking for, like I said, lotto tickets, he is a lotto ticket, and he has the talent to be very good if he does hit. So
somewhere Connor McDavid is listening to this show right now and screaming into a pillow after you just said that.
It's not ideal. Like, if you're the Oilers and you're trying to solve, that's what I put. It's like, this is no surefire solution to the problem. Like, this is, again, another hope play by the Oilers that they can fix this by being cheap. They didn't invest a lot in it. They're being cheap. They're hoping that they hit the lotto ticket.
Well, they weren't cheap in signing Ryan Shea to 5 years and $4 million a year. It's like they get the Darnell Nurse contract off their books, and they're like, here.
I was in Edmonton for the Babcock press conference, and I was talking to an Edmonton reporter whom I won't name, and I'm like, I was talking about the Connor Murphy, Jason Dickens deals. I'm like, 5-year deals with no movement clauses. Why would you give out 5-year deals to some injury? I like those guys, but they're injury prone and they're in their 30s. And the reporter, who shall not be named, goes, "You think Stan Bowman's going to be here in year 3 of that deal?" Edmonton.
Well, I mean, Ryan Shea had actually a pretty nice year in Pittsburgh last year, like 35-point season. I just, again, it's the sticker shock. It's whatever. But do you?
I'm
you
sure
willing
there's
to
no
make
moving
a
clause attached to
5-year
that. It's Edmonton.
bet on that? Like, it's just a lot. But that's the story of July 1. It's not just this year. You can go back to every July 1 ever, and people are saying, like, he got how much for how many years? And that's how it goes. It's just the cap's higher, the numbers are higher, the term ironically not higher. This is pretty par for the course in terms of the term, but it's nonetheless tale as old as time. That is going to do it for us. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Athletic Hockey Show. Remember to stay tuned with us here on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to us and stay reading on The Athletic. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell to stay informed and catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the meantime, you can join our Discord community. We'll see you there.